When everything is white, glimmering silver white, and stillness fills the night, it's Christmas, a winter wonderland, a snowball in each hand.
Hi everyone, I'm Devin.
I'm Will.
This is Eloise, and we are the Egan family. And today we're bringing you some late night present wrapping Q&A action. Yeah. Eloise should be asleep, but she is not. So she's going to be up talking. So we're going to see how much wrapping that she lets mom get done here. And she's also probably going to talk along with us. So I apologize for that. We're trying to teach her secrets. Can you whisper a secret? That's right. Okay. So first of all, a disclaimer. If you are somebody that we buy gifts for, maybe don't watch this in case a gift like sneaks in. And if you think you saw something that we bought for you, no you didn't. We are not showing, there's no chance of any of our kids' gifts slipping into this because we specifically made sure that we are not doing that. We are also using the homemade wrapping paper that the kids and I made the other day. So if you haven't watched that Vlogmas video, it will be linked down below. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, and come back for tomorrow for another day of Vlogmas. So we asked on Instagram and on YouTube for you to submit questions or topics that you thought that we should discuss while we do this. So first, let me get started with my paper and a gift, and then we will ask the first question here. So we'll start off with a nice light one here. Someone asked, what is our favorite Christmas song? So go ahead, Will, you can answer.
White Christmas.
White Christmas. Has that always been your favorite, or is that a recent favorite? Like,
I like the older class, White Christmas, I'll Be Home for Christmas. The slower, nicer kind of songs.
Okay. I have mentioned it quite a few times on our channel. I need to find my tape. It's 2 seconds in and I've already lost everything. My favorite Christmas song is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, but only when Judy Garland sings it. That's my answer. It's along the same line as what is your favorite Christmas movie?
It's a Wonderful Life. There we go. I got there.
Ooh. Same thing. Has that always been your favorite?
Yeah,
or?
that one's always, as far as like an actual, like I love the Rankin and Bass, The Year Without a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Will looks like Santa from Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
When Parker was little, he pointed that out.
He's like, Mom, you didn't tell me that Daddy was Santa Claus. It was really funny. I will insert a picture here, if I remember. I did a comparison picture of Will and Santa, and it's actually pretty funny. Like the younger version of Santa where he's a redhead. Anyway, my favorite Christmas movie is Meet Me in St. Louis. A lot of people say it's not a Christmas movie because only part of it takes place in Christmas, during Christmas, but Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was written for that movie, so I stand by it being a Christmas movie. Yes, she agrees. But if we're going like cartoon or claymation, then it's the claymation Jack Frost. And this is for Ezra, our nephew Ezra. Hi Ezra, we love you. There we go. And how cute that little, look at with Parker's little custom design.
Yeah.
How cute. Okay. Our next question is, what are your some favorite holiday traditions? Maybe saying a holiday tradition from like when you were younger, and then move on to ones that we do with our little family, or however you want to do it.
When I was little, we would open one present on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would always end up sleeping like together, like we'd have a little sleepover.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Well, specifically Cecilia and I.
His younger sister. Will has
Yes, you all know who my entire family is. It's fine.
Will has 3 sisters. 2 older, 1 younger. And Cecilia's the youngest.
Cecilia's the youngest. And we would wake up before everybody else and have to sit there in the dark and just wait.
That's cute. We did the one present on Christmas Eve thing. And then, so my family, when we were younger, or when I was younger, we didn't do like a big extended Christmas. Like we didn't do like grandma, grandpa, aunts, and uncles on the same day. We spent that time to just be at home in our houses, so nobody had to travel on Christmas. And then we would do our Christmas like with extended family on New Year a lot of the time. So it made Christmas last a little bit longer. And yeah, my mom would make us wait. We do this with our kids too. Make us wait at the top of the stairs while she went downstairs and turned all the lights on. So when we walked downstairs for the first time Christmas morning, it was all lit up and magical, and it was really cool. Yeah, so that was mine, like as a kid. I think that was mine. This is another one for our nephew, Ezra. Let's see. Now with our kids, I love driving around and looking at Christmas lights. The kids love it. Parker is so cute. He gets so excited. So this year, instead of saying like, oh my goodness or something, he's like, oh my Christmas trees and everything. Like anytime he gets excited for anything, like these last few weeks, he's been like, oh my Christmas trees. And I love it. I love decorating the Christmas tree as a family. And yeah. That's your favorite thing about Christmas? You don't know yet. You've never had a Christmas. Oh my gosh.
The very first Christmas.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing that we do with the kids? I'm trying to get the paper.
I love the, that carried over from you, but the footprints in the soot.
Oh, Santa at our house is very messy. And he did this at my house when I was little. In the morning when we come downstairs, we always look to see if Santa left a trail from our fireplace to where he leaves the presents, and every year he does. And he leaves soot footprints, and it's so cool because it's the first, we put our presents, and then so Santa puts the kids' presents under the dining room tree. And so it's just a really cool first glimpse that he actually came. This is for my stepdad, Paul. Let me finish this gift and then I will ask the next question. For those of you who don't know and have just followed for other content, we do homeschool. Our son Parker is 7. He's in the 2nd grade. And he's the only one of like homeschooling age right now.
Oh, big you.
For some background, we started homeschooling as a result of the pandemic. Prior to that, Parker did all of pre-K and part of kindergarten.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, part of kindergarten in person. And then that's when the pandemic hit, was halfway through kindergarten. So when he did virtual school for the first half of, or for the second half of kindergarten, when they weren't sure how things would proceed from there, we just made a decision as a family that we thought the best option for our child was to keep him at home. Parker is very much like me. He works really well with structure and things staying the same, and he does not do great with change and routine. And so we were afraid that him going back and not knowing if one week we'd be in person, the next week we wouldn't, how he would handle that. And we also at that point knew we were expecting Eloise, and so we knew that we were going to be pretty high risk for a while as far as immune systems go. Yeah, for that and quite a few other reasons, honestly, we decided that that was the step we were going to take for that year. And it's always been open-ended. We've left it up to Parker as far as if he decides he wants to go back to school one day, that's not completely off the table. We also do leave it up to our discretion what we feel is safest for our area and our kids, but as of right now, that is where we stand. So that's how we started homeschooling and how long we've been homeschooling. Parker's also a pretty advanced kid, so he does like the ability to be able to move at his own pace. So that's been a plus. Okay. So now that I rambled about homeschool. I will say that I had my mind pretty much made up from the beginning that this is what we were going to do. Out of the two of us, the one who was most apprehensive was Will. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I knew that he would be perfectly fine as far as the schooling aspect, because he's such a smart kid and you're such a good teacher in...
I ran a theater school prior to staying home with the kids, so it wasn't like an education aspect that...
but I was more concerned about the social aspects, being able to see other people and socialize with kids his own age. I mean, it's usually hard with homeschooling to begin with, but because of the pandemic...
Or that's what people think. That it's hard.
That's what I always thought.
Right. We had some preconceived notions about the reality of. Anyway, sorry, interrupting.
But especially with the pandemic, even, with those things we did find out we could do socializing, none of those things were happening.
Right.
Because of the pandemic. So that was what I was most worried about. And the couple of times that Parker has expressed interest in possibly going back to school, it has been specifically because of that, not because he wants to go back for the education. He's learning just as well, if not better, at home. Yeah. He's flat out said, I miss my friends. Right.
So we do try and do as much like interaction as we feel is safe. That's a pretty controversial topic, so I don't want to talk too much on that. Everybody makes those decisions for their family, and that's fine. But for us, with, health concerns that we have in our family, we try and be as safe as possible and still let them have a good time. So we have let him have a few play dates here and there, and he has been able to see his cousins a couple of times. So that does help. And for his birthday, we did gift him karate lessons that are virtual for right now until more of the places in our town open up. That is good. And he has gone on a couple of field trips with some local homeschool friends as well. And also just knowing that he strives in structure. The other thing that at first we were a little bit more concerned with was the cost.
Yeah.
Because I was under the impression that homeschooling was super expensive. I had done a lot of research prior to seriously considering it because it was something I was always curious about. Just knowing like the type of learner Parker was, I didn't know if this would eventually be a path that we would take. And a lot of the content I was finding at first was not secular. That is something, we are secular homeschoolers. So a lot of the curriculum is very, very religious, and that's amazing and wonderful for those who are looking for that. We were not quite looking for that. So that was something that we struggled with at first. And everything that I was finding was families who got like big box sets and were spending hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars for their kids. And that was something that we knew wasn't very practical for our budget. So being able to talk to some friends who had homeschooled their kids was a really huge help for us to be able to realize that you can homeschool on whatever budget you have. I do have a collab video that I shot with some friends who are homeschoolers as well. I will link that entire playlist in the description box from that collab because they share a lot of really great ways to homeschool, and I have a video on that as well. So those were our initial setbacks and our reservations going into it. Why we chose to homeschool. It's still what is working best for us, public school is never completely off the table until Parker takes it off the table. We really like to let him make as many of the choices about his education and his life as possible, obviously providing guidance because we are his parents, and if we ever thought something was completely unsafe or unwise, then we would tell him that, and he's pretty reasonable and about that stuff. Like,
he's a mature, smart kid.
Yeah, and he knows, like, especially because we like to explain to him why. That's a big thing that we do in our house is we explain why we're making certain decisions, and so he can kind of trust what we're saying. The next question was actually from one of my first theater students, and when Will and I used to direct shows, she was in all of them, and we love her to pieces. Caitlin Tambasco.
Oh,
we love Caitlin, and she's out like living her dream right now in Boston, and like I hate that she's old enough to do that because it makes me feel old, but I'm super proud of you, Caitlin, and good for you. Anyway, gushing about Caitlin, we love her to pieces. She asked, I can't remember exactly how she worded it now. Like, what would you tell people considering homeschool to help them make that decision? I'm going to insert like a screenshot of the question, how she actually worded it. It's on my phone, which is recording right now. So, which is hopefully recording right now, you know, given our luck. We don't know. I
mean, I'll say it's very rewarding to see your child.
That's a good point. You never hear, I don't know, because you know what you did today.
Yeah. But also, on the flip, you're the entire administration. You're the teacher, the lunch lady, the principal,
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie to you and say like it's always rainbows and butterflies and we never have a difficult day, because that would be a lie. We do very frequently have difficult days. It's hard. You do have to keep in mind that it's going to be a transition for you and your kids, and you need to figure out what works best for you. But you have to keep in mind that there's going to be some times where your kids are going to try and test the limits. It was an adjustment realizing that sometimes I'm not just mom. Like, there are times where he can like goof around and be silly and school can be fun, but then there are some times where he also does have to like shift gears a little bit and make sure that he's actually retaining the information. We try and make school as fun as possible, but sometimes with Parker, turning learning into a game sometimes like is detrimental because he doesn't retain as well. And I'm kind of like that too, so I can definitely understand.
And that we have I wouldn't say a problem with, but that's something that we have to remember, not just with homeschooling, but in general. I mean, statistically, Parker is the youngest kid in his grade.
Yeah.
The cutoff for our school district is December 1st, and his birthday is November 30th, and he was born an hour and a half before December 1st. So he was always the youngest kid in his class, but he was also always one of the smartest kids in his class and one of the most emotionally mature kids in his class.
Yeah.
And so sometimes even not involving school, I have a hard time remembering that he's only 7.
Yeah, that is something I will say for myself as well. It's difficult. Something to keep in mind that it does require a lot more hands-on work with you throughout the day. So if that's not something that like mentally or physically or realistically that you can commit, then that's totally fine. You know, everybody makes, like I said, everybody makes decisions for their family that work for them. Also, it's like Will said, you play every role, so you don't really get a break. Like from the second I wake up, there's no like downtime. It's breakfast, then school, then lunchtime, then more school, then snack and playing and cleaning and dinner time, and sometimes even more school depending on how much we can get done with the girls. So it's a lot, but I don't want it to sound all negative because the majority of our experience has been positive, I would say. Like Will said, it's extremely rewarding to actually be able to watch the progress happen and not just hear about it secondhand. It's been really cool. I'm learning a bunch.
Yeah.
Like along with him that I either never learned traditional, like because I was in public school, Will was as well, or just don't remember. It's really cool also watching him find his own special interests. Yeah, mama. So the cons are that it is an adjustment emotionally, it's an adjustment mentally and physically. It does require a lot more, obviously, involvement. It's not a hands-off, like, you actually have to think and lesson plan, especially if you do things the way that we do, where we piece curriculum together and don't go the box curriculum route. But some pros are, like I said, I think that Emery and Parker are as close as they are because they've spent so much time together. They are inseparable. They ask to have sleepovers all the time. And that was something I worried about with Parker and Emery having a little bit of an age gap. It's amazing to watch him learn and like to watch him like actually grasp when he gets a concept, you know, like to see the light bulb go on is so cool. I love having the freedom of being able, like going to Texas. When we did, we wouldn't have been able to do that had he been in public school because he would have been in school. And that was so educational. He got so much out of our trip to the Alamo. He was talking all about it. He was asking questions about the people that were there and all their experiences, and then he really, and why they made the choices that they did, and what bravery means, and all sorts of things like that. And so it was such an amazing experience. And I also love that we can stop and pause when he finds a subject that he really loves. Like we started the year doing ancient civilizations, and when we got to Egypt, he loved it. So we spent weeks reading books about ancient Egypt instead of continuing on with the rest of the ancient civilizations, because that's what interested him. And you don't really get to do that with kids in public school with their curriculum, because there's 25 kids in a class and everyone's going to have a different strength, and you know, you have to get through so much. And so I think it's great. If you had any worries about being able to afford it, there are tons of affordable options. Like I said, I will link the playlist in the description. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not work, because it is a lot of work, but it's fun work for me. I love it. And like I said, if it were up to me, we would continue forever. But if it's up to Parker, we'll see. It's also cool because we as parents have different strengths as far as learning goes. We both really like history. I am okay at math. I just do not love it at all. Will is a math person.
Yeah, math is my favorite and best subject.
So it's pretty cool. And Parker loves math too. So it's pretty cool where I can be on, when Will's home, I can be like, hey, Will, why don't you go do some math with Parker? Like we were talking about, just taking things at your own pace. So you don't have to feel guilty if, you know, you have to take an extra week or something, you know. You can truly go at the child's pace.
Like with traditional school, if, you know, if somebody doesn't get something, then, well, sorry, but we have to move on.
Right. Unfortunately, it doesn't, yeah, there's not always time to stop and...
Right.
So we just filmed and had a whole bunch of fun filming and told stories about Christmases.
Our favorite presents and...
My phone stopped filming. So we might have to do a part 2 later in the week when we do the kids' presents.
Yeah, we'll just pick up where we left off.
Because this little one is very fussy. So Will's going to take her upstairs to bed. I'm going to finish wrapping. We have like 4 gifts left.
Yo, my name is Devin and I'm here just
No.
Wrapping.
No. Go to bed, Will.
Okay.
Good night.
Say good night, Will. Good night, Will.
Night, weasels. So, like I said, I think it cut off when we were talking about homeschool, just giving like a summary of what we would tell people who are considering homeschool for their children. Do your research for your state. Look up what kind of curriculum you might be interested in. Do your research on YouTube. There are tons of amazing resources, tons of amazing creators. Reach out to anybody local that you know of that has homeschooled. Our superintendent, there's a liaison between our superintendent's office, like she works out of there, and she's a great connection to have. If we have any questions, we can call, or we can like reach out to her through email. Or, you know, if you have any questions that you think I might be able to answer, feel free to ask on Instagram. You can always send me a message or ask in the comments, and I'll do my best to help out. Like I said, I don't really know the state regulations anywhere except for New York. So if you live in New York, that works out great. But other than that, I can answer general questions about curriculums or things like that. So feel free to ask. And I, of course, if I can, I will help. If I can't, I will be honest and try and point you in the direction of somebody who can. Because like I said, I have made a lot of really amazing friends on YouTube who homeschool, and they're all different types of homeschoolers too. So, oh my gosh, I am so frustrated. So not only did I just film again after my camera stopped filming, but it stopped filming again. So the quality is going to be awful, but I switched it around. So now I'm looking at it so I can tell when it cuts out, because at this point, I'm sure it's inevitable. I'm also freezing, so I'm going to grab a blanket. My presents are all wrapped, except for one. I ran out of wrapping paper, and so I'm going to have the kids draw on like a paper bag or something so I can wrap that last one. But the last topic that I talked about a little bit was our struggle with secondary infertility, and it's like, it was really emotionally draining to be that vulnerable, and then especially to have it not work. So if my energy seems down, that's why. But it's something that I talked about before, so I just wanted to kind of touch on it again while we were talking. It's kind of a heavier topic, but so if that's not your thing, I would not be upset if you clicked out. Like, I don't want to, I know it can be a really tough topic. I wouldn't want to trigger anybody or anything like that. But if that's something that you are interested in, I will do my little summary again. For those of you who weren't aware of our story, Parker was conceived with only a few months of us trying. And I use the word trying loosely. Like, we knew we wanted to start a family, so we weren't preventing, but we weren't doing anything like strict to chart or track or plan or whatever. We got married in September of 2013, and we found out in March of 2014 that we were expecting. So very quick timing wise. My pregnancy with Parker was a little bit rough. I had I didn't know what was normal, of course, because I had never been pregnant prior to this. And so I had a lot of weird aches and pains that the doctors were really quick to write off as me being dehydrated, which was odd because I always drink way more water than like anybody I know. Or they would like just chalk it up to me being overweight, or they said I had heartburn. But I was prescribed heartburn medication and it didn't touch it. And I later found out that I had an extremely diseased gallbladder, like to the point where the doctor in my follow-up made it a point to tell me that if I had waited any longer to get it removed, that there was a really good chance that the gallstones that were in there that had started to like calcify, I guess. I think that's the term that he used. They like almost, the way he described it is like they started looking extremely sharp and they were about to pierce my gallbladder, and it was extremely infected, which would have caused me to get sepsis. So that was really scary to hear, especially knowing that so many doctors tried to write it off as heartburn. Like I was working at the hospital at the time and in a scheduling department. And there were times where I would be wheeled from my desk to my doctor's office because everybody thought I was going to pass out. Like I would get an attack and go instantly white as ghost. We also had problems during delivery with the doctor. I won't go too much into that, but it was really traumatic. They told me he wasn't breathing. He was breathing fine. But it caused me to have a lot of complications with healing. Anyway, but we had him and we were just so thrilled that he was here, and he was just such a perfect baby. And oh my gosh, love him to pieces. So then we knew that we kind of wanted our kids close in age. My sister and I are about 7.5 years apart. I am 7.5 years older than her. And so growing up, it was kind of hard for us to find like a middle ground of things that we had in common because there was such a big age gap. We got along as well as like siblings do, but we didn't really have anything like super in common. Like by the time I was done playing with Barbies and she was playing, you know, so like just our stages didn't line up very well. So if we could have helped it, I wanted to keep our kids a little bit closer than that. So when Parker turned a year old, we started trying, and by trying I mean like once again loosely, like just how we did with Parker, and no tracking or anything, and nothing happened. And so as the months went on, we started trying more things, tracking ovulation. I downloaded so many apps. I did, you know, like the temperature. I did everything that you read about online, and nothing was working. And so finally, when it had been over 2 years at this point, I made an appointment with a doctor. I had been less than thrilled, like I said, with the doctors that I had seen during my pregnancy with Parker, so I was trying to find a new one. And so I took an appointment with the first OB that could take me, and he left a lot to be desired. We'll leave it at that. Like, I'm actually a little traumatized still from my visit with him, but he pretty much told me that I had a healthy child, and that was that. Like, I could get pregnant, so I would get pregnant. And instead of talking to me about what potentially was causing me not to become pregnant, he made comments about like what my scars looked like on my stomach from my gallbladder removal, and just it was not great. Even like to the point where the nurse was in the room with me like, what is he doing? I don't know. So my mom was able to help me get some connections to get a doctor's appointment with the OBGYN that I credit everything to. She is absolutely amazing, and I am convinced Emery would not be here if it was not for her. She, on my initial visit with her, she told me that she thought, based on my symptoms, that she knew what was wrong. She assured me that she could help me. She told me that she had a plan, that she was going to run tests. She assured me that what I had gone through was not normal. It was not okay. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Devin, I'm not going to stop helping you unless you want me to stop helping you until you have a baby in your arms. And just hearing her say that, like, it took so much worry away. And that's just kind of the doctor she is. Like, I wish this sort of medical care to everyone, because I've had some questionable medical care, so I know that it's not all like this. And she's an angel. She's called me at home with test results, so I didn't have to wait over the weekend. She's called in prescriptions for me. When I was in the hospital during my pregnancy with Emery, I ended up in the ER with a really bad stomach flu, and she came like rushing to see me. Brought a Doppler to make sure that I could hear that Emery was okay, just like the works. Anyway, she's incredible. So she did ultrasounds, and she told me even at that appointment that she thought that what I was describing to her sounded a lot like PCOS, given my medical history and what I was experiencing now. But she did run tests, ultrasounds, and things like that to confirm, and I did have some problems with cysts. I only ovulate from one ovary, so that also contributes to it. And so because of that, like I said, she did give me the diagnosis, and it explains so much. I've struggled like so my entire life with weight gain and weight loss. I can't lose weight to save my life. It doesn't matter what kind of exercise or diet I do. I feel like it does not work for me. I've struggled with acne. Like, this is a miracle that I'm allowing myself to be filmed like this, because I have such a big insecurity about my face. Like, even now I'm 34 years old and I have breakouts all over my face, no matter how well I take care of my skin. It's just, it drives me nuts, but it is what it is. And yeah, a lot of the other issues with PCOS I have, but those are my main ones: cysts, weight gain, and acne. And like I said, I've struggled with these my entire life, and I just chalked it up to genetics or, you know, bad eating habits, bad luck, you know, whatever. It's nice to know, like, now that this is something real. Anyway, so after she diagnosed me with PCOS, she then prescribed me Clomid, and that did not work my first cycle with it, but it did work my second cycle, and I was so thrilled. It was like such a big weight off of my chest when we found out we were expecting Emery. I was terrified something was going to happen. She, like, my cervix was short for almost my entire pregnancy, and so we were worried she would come early. She didn't. She even came late. She was measuring tiny. She was born a perfect 7 pounds 9 ounces. Everything was like wonderful. And then with Eloise, we didn't struggle at all. She was very easy to conceive. She was like almost like, I did not believe I was pregnant, because I figured that that would never happen for me again, but it did. Anyway, like I said, sorry, my energy is really down. I've already talked about this, and talking about it does bring up a lot of feelings, and so it does make me a little emotional. But if this sort of topic is something that you want me to talk more about, I used to, when I was dealing with it more, I used to have a blog that was called Coffee and Cuddles, and it was on WordPress. I can link that. I haven't updated it in a really long time, but it was really therapeutic for me at the time. I have really supportive people in my life, but I just felt like I couldn't properly be upset or be sad about what I was going through, because I did have Parker, and I never wanted him to feel like he wasn't enough, and I never wanted anyone else to believe that I thought that he wasn't enough, because of course he's always been so, like, more than enough. But I just knew it was so weird. It was such a weird feeling for me to mourn the loss of somebody that I didn't have, because in my heart I knew that there was somebody missing. I knew that I wanted another child, and it was the strangest feeling for me to mourn something that I didn't have, while also trying to be thankful for something that was right in front of me. Like I said, I never wanted anybody to think that I wasn't thankful. And I did even have some people tell me, including doctors, like, I don't know why you're upset about this, you have a kid. And so it made me feel like I wasn't allowed to be. And it's something that I've learned as I've grown as an adult and a person, and I've come to terms more with my mental health and my anxiety, that just because somebody has it worse, or just because, you know, I am not struggling in the way that somebody else is, doesn't mean that what I went through wasn't valid. It was valid. It was very hard. I was in a very dark place mentally. I was beating myself up. I felt like it was all my fault, that my body just was failing me. It wasn't doing the one thing that it was supposed to do. Oh, sorry, I kicked my tripod. As a woman, like, I felt like I was supposed to make the babies, and I couldn't make the babies, and I just felt very, very alone, even though I wasn't alone. But my mental health and my anxiety let me believe that I was alone, and it was pretty detrimental. And I'm really glad to be on the other side of that. And when I was in the depths of it, I spent a lot of time on YouTube looking at people who went through something similar, and their stories really did help me have hope and just really be okay with not being okay some days. And I really do credit watching stories like that to how I got through. So I hope that this story helps somebody. Even if you're not struggling with fertility or something like that, just hearing somebody give you permission to be upset when you're upset is so important. I talk a lot about that on my channel, about how my anxiety tells me that I need to be perfect and I'm not allowed to be upset about things. And so sometimes I have to hear it from somebody else, like, what you're going through is real. You are allowed to be sad. You're allowed to not be okay. You're allowed to take a few minutes and be upset about it. You're going to brush yourself up and, off and get up tomorrow and it'll be okay. But you're allowed to have a minute to mourn or be upset or angry. It's valid. Just because somebody else has it worse doesn't mean that your struggles aren't valid. So if you need to hear that about anything, fertility, mom guilt, because we all know that that's a real thing that happens far more often than we would like it to. Anything. If you have anything that is weighing heavy on your heart and you're feeling guilty about it doing that, don't. This is your permission to feel what you're feeling, and your struggles are valid. You are amazing. You're going to get back up. Things are going to be better someday. I promise you. It never seems like it. It always happens though. It's magic. And it will happen. You're going to be okay, but you're allowed to not be okay right now. So there's that. I'm sorry that this ended up a little bit more depressing than my normal content, but I hope that it helps somebody. We'll be back to lighthearted videos probably tomorrow. We are going to do a part 2 where we have Will back, so we can talk more about the stuff that got cut off today. We are telling some really cute stories that I think that you would like, and we have a lot more presents wrapped, so I hope that that is something that you look forward to. If there's anything else that you want to see or hear from me, any other questions you have, it can be serious, it can be funny, it can be whatever about Will and I when we started dating, or Matt. It could literally anything. Leave them in the comments or message me on Instagram, and we'll be sure to add that in part 2. It cut me off. All I'm doing is saying goodbye. That's my cue to stop rambling. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Always leave suggestions in the description. I will link my old blog if you want to read that, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye! Finally, or as Parker would say, peace. I have to learn to stop looking at myself and to look over here. This is why it's always turned around, and this is why I never know when I stop recording. Okay, bye!